That's why I called you a divine disruptor. Is this podcast? It's all about highlighting, movers and shakers who are amazing people, very successful, but we don't need to sell our soul or sell our body to get ahead.
These are still people. I don't care if we're talking about Jay-Z, Beyonce. These are still human beings at the end of the day, and people tend to forget that.
But inside, I'm like, okay, I'm either going to have to lay hands and pray for them, ask God and Jesus for strength, or I might punch them in the face because I'm not liking the energy they're giving me.
Don't let anyone dim your light. Everyone has a light in them that's amazing. Don't let anyone dim that for any reason. Love, money, career. Don't let anyone dim your light.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode on the Divinely Disruptive podcast. I'm your host, Jane Powers. If you're new to this channel, I'm so happy you found us. This podcast is all about leveling up your life and creating space to dream again. Today in our studio, we have a fierce female entrepreneur and a true divine disruptor. Despite her success and her high-profile network, she remains to stay grounded and truly humble. She goes by the name Dria Baum. I had to use my phone to take some notes because she does some incredible work. How she juggles it all, I have no idea. She's the owner of the House of Aces, founder of To a City Near You, executive producer, co-creator of the Debut Live. Dria, thank you so much. I'm so glad we made this happen. It's been about, a year or so, embarrassingly.
Oh my gosh, girl. I think it's been about a year.
Man. First of all, you haven't aged. You look fresh, makeup on point. The hair is done today.
That intro was humbling.
So, girl, I'm getting chills right now. I'm like, let me take some notes so I'm not, making this up. But let me just start by saying, the encounters I've had with you, I did not realize what you did. And so that's why I had to take some notes. I'm like, you are not just an influencer or working with somebody. I'm like, you do it all. So tell us, what brought you to Vegas and who is Dria Baum in a nutshell?
This is probably the toughest question I get on a daily basis. What brought me to Vegas originally was I had majored in public relations, and I had ironically just gotten a job with Floyd Mayweather in the marketing side. So that's what got me here. And then it was just been a journey, seriously, ever since. In a nutshell, I would say I'm an entrepreneur overall, but my niche is entertainment, specifically music, is kind of where I lean in the most heavy in terms of work.
So this might be a loaded question here. How did you go from, doing your studies to saying, okay, I'm going to go into music specifically?
Yeah, I was actually a creative and artist first, singer, played guitar, was a theater kid, all the above, but had a massive fear of stage fright. I could not perform to save my life. I choked every time on every, not as a kid, but as you get older, when the insecurity set in, in high school and college. So I realized that was probably not going to be my journey to be the artist. But I still had the passion for it. I knew music theory. I knew the creative process being in a studio. So I was like, I got to be in this mix, just not in the forefront. So that's how we ended up there.
And ironically, you're on the podcast now. Luckily, we're just hanging out, catching up. But that right there is really cool because I didn't actually know the depth of your history and all the experience. But I know that, you're probably set apart already because you kind of said it yourself. You know what it's like to be in the limelight and you know what is kind of maybe the struggle of being on stage. So tell me the most humbling experience that you had yet this far in your experience, in your career.
That's hard. The most humbling. I think I'm still just in awe of it all, to be honest. I don't really fangirl over people or anything like that, but just being blessed to be in an industry that I know a lot of people would die to be a part of in some capacity. I'm in every day. So I think I'm still kind of on the cloud nine. I think I'm still, this is still, I'm 12 years in, it still hasn't hit me yet that this is what I do on a daily basis, whether it's the Grammys or, being on red carpets with these people or in the recording studio. It's still kind of surreal, I guess.
I really love hearing that because I know people listening and watching, they're probably looking at you from Instagram or looking at you from afar, or maybe they've met you and they, maybe think you're not as grounded or as humble as you are. And so just sitting here with you, sharing space.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in awe too, I'm like, you probably touched J-Lo, you probably touched Usher, I wish I could. But to be so close to people of success, fame, power, it can change you. So tell me a little bit also about what keeps you grounded, because I can't say, living in the city of Vegas, I can't say that people often stay grounded when they get into rooms of power and fame. I mean, shoot, I remember meeting Snoop Dogg's manager last year and I got a little too carried away. Like, Jane, calm down.
Yeah.
You're just a person. They don't know you. But that proximity, I mean, it can change you if you're not aware.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your secret sauce or maybe even routines that you personally practice that, allow you to not lose who you really are?
I think there's two things. I think one is you kind of mentioned it. These are still people. I don't care if we're talking about Jay-Z, Beyonce. These are still human beings at the end of the day, and people tend to forget that. They go through good days, bad days. They're not perfect. They're not, this superficial alien that people make them out to be. They are real people. And, obviously the more time me specifically that I spend with, celebrities and things like that, the more it becomes like clear how real they are, and so for me, that's it. That's how I can kind of stay neutral with everything. I think the other part that keeps me humble is including myself. I've watched everyone be on top and then lose it all at the same time. As much as you get the money, the fame, all that, it can be gone tomorrow, especially in music. So I think that's the other thing that keeps me humble is like, yeah, it looks great today and things might be rocking right now, but in 6 months I could be out of a job, no money, and figuring out how I'm gonna pay rent tomorrow. So, those are the things I think that keep me very humble, because entertainment and music is not the most stable job when we're talking about that kind of stuff.
Now, this might be a little personal, but have you ever got lost in the sauce? Because, living in Vegas, I was born in Orange County. Man, I get really excited about things, and I have maybe my toxic trait is I'm very obsessive, I'm very impulsive, I'm very reactive. So sometimes I just want to fit in, or someone's having a good time, maybe doing things that I shouldn't be doing. In my younger years, whether it's drinking or just negative habits that I know aren't good for me.
Yeah.
I've been trapped in personally. So if you would share whatever you feel comfortable sharing, have you had those moments? And if so, how did you get out of it?
Yeah, I mean, when I moved here, I was in my 20s. So obviously,
you look great.
Thank you. Of course, like you're, hanging out with Floyd Mayweather's team and, being exposed to all the nightlife and the day life and, all these things like that. I grew up in major cities. So honestly, I had been working in nightlife when I was like 16, 17. So I don't know that that really sold it for me. But I think just exhausting yourself, taking everything, you said, taking everything on at the same time and saying yes to everything and, being out in the streets all the time. That it does wear you out. And yeah, there was a point once here and once in LA where I was just depleted, like whether that was from, drinking too much or partying or whatever. And I think I got to a point where I was like, look, if you want this longevity for this career, this is really what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You have to learn to like scale back and pick and choose when you're going to engage with stuff and when you're going to pull back. And also keep in mind that I think with social media and celebrity and stardom, people get really wrapped up in like, I've got to do everything right now and, show everything and do all this stuff and, be on your own timeline. I'm very much on my own, outside of my clients, I'm on my own timeline. I'm not in competition with nobody. I don't rush. I take my time. And if that doesn't work for us to collaborate, then that's fine. Then it wasn't meant to be. But I think a lot of people feel like they've got to keep up with the Joneses and keep up with social media and these celebrities. And you will wear yourself out in some capacity doing that.
I mean, thank you for sharing. And those are just really good wisdom, because there's no way you've been in the industry for 12 years and look this youthful. Okay. So good job.
Thank you.
And, the reality is I really, wanted this podcast to be meaningful, full of depth. And as I mentioned off the record, this is for the people who have visions and dreams. And this is for the people that maybe didn't grow up with sisters, brothers, mentors, and even myself. I didn't necessarily have mentors to look up to. So this is my time to invite those people, and even myself. I want to become that mentor I never had.
Yeah.
So sharing these hard facts is very necessary, because even for me, I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said, well, I never admired you or envied parts of your job. It sounds amazing. But if you don't set those boundaries and you don't have your personal foundation, like you said, you might be balling out of control, sitting next to Beyonce, but then tomorrow you do something stupid, you're done.
Yeah.
And now you're wondering how you're going to pay
you.
Yeah. Right. So I'm all about female empowerment. I'm all about embracing women in male-dominated industries and environments. Again, I can't speak from personal experience, but share with us, what is it like being a woman in your line of work, and perhaps the struggles you deal with as well?
Yeah. First and foremost, like, I am super blessed and I'm a unique case where I haven't dealt with a lot of bad things that have happened to me. I've had people around me that have, but I've surrounded myself with mentors and things like that, specifically male mentors that really looked out for me. But I think there's certain things that come with the nature of this job that, stereotypes that you get put on until they get to know you. Things like, oh, she slept her way up to the top, or she's only good because she looks good, or whatever the case is. And I am the first out the gate to be like, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I'm creative, all these things. And I'm shoving it in their face consistently, because again, there's nothing wrong if you make a living off of your beauty. That's great. But that was never me. I was the ugly duckling in school. Like, that was not my journey, So now that, they've kind of matched and they're parallel, I don't even look to that, because that's not second nature to me. But it is important for me to be vocal in rooms with males and really state my purpose and make my voice heard. And a lot of times that's hard. They are highly opinionated. Some of them can be chauvinistic. Some of them can be just flat out rude or press the sexual component of it. And it's not easy. You have to kind of finagle your way out of it without pissing them off, because they are in such power positions. At the same time, have self-worth and know when to leave. And for me, as much as I love my job and money, if it compromises my morals, I don't care if you tell me I'm going to meet Beyonce tomorrow. Like, I'm not doing it. So, I think you got to stay true to your boundaries and your morals first and foremost. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy being in a male-driven world, especially music. And, I hope, my hope for women in the industry and the women coming up is that they are more vocal and they band together, so that we kind of have people to lean on as we go through that journey.
No, and that's super inspiring to hear, because most people, I mean, you and I know this, especially Vegas. Oh boy, I don't want to judge people. I think you said it great. If that's how you get your money, go ahead, right? I don't know your personal life or what you're going through, but as far as how I was raised and my personal private morals, that's just not how I move.
Yeah.
And so for you to share that in your industry, like, no, Jane, I make sure people know what I'm about. We need more women like that. That's why I called you a divine disruptor. Is this podcast, it's all about highlighting, movers and shakers who are amazing people, very successful, but we don't need to sell our soul or sell our body to get ahead.
Right.
And so I love hearing that. I wish there's more people like you. You are paving the way. Now, something that I always wonder as well is, what is your greatest motivation and why you do what you do?
Personally, I had a cousin that unfortunately he passed away due to an overdose, and he was 21. And for me, I don't have kids or anything like that. So for me, that was like the closest thing of somebody I was mentoring within my family. He was highly interested in the music side and cars and entertainment. So I do it for him in a lot of ways. But I think outside of that, it's really just my people, whether it's family or friends that are great at what they do. In a perfect world, I kind of look up to somebody like an Ava DuVernay or an Issa Rae that have really put all their people on. They had writers, they had other people around them that, didn't really get into the rooms they were supposed to in Hollywood. And, the ultimate dream and goal for me is to get all my projects up and running so that I can hire and pay the people what they're worth, but also pay my people that are, doing amazing things as well that just haven't really had that chance yet or that break yet.
Man, and I feel like oftentimes, that's very real. Thank you for sharing. Is oftentimes whether it's getting into drugs, alcohol and beyond, or not understanding the deeper why, it's easy to just burn out and just be over it. And so I think it's important for all of us to know our purpose and why we do it. And as I mentioned, even everything I do, including this platform, is, to put people on, but more so everyone deserves a moment to shine. And it doesn't always have to be the ones that paid their way up, slept around, or, doing some funny things. There are good people. So just even talking to you right now, I know people listening and watching, they're like, what a breath of fresh air. This boss lady, this fierce female, she's just so real, but you're in these rooms of so much power. Right? So I want to kind of like build off what we're talking about right now is if one day you had all the money in the world and you could truly create the job or opportunities for you, what would that look like?
For me, like I said, it's kind of a, very much how Issa or Ava did it, a kind of entertainment conglomerate, if you will, or Tyler Perry, or somebody like that has really been able to house all of their stuff and didn't need the big corporate players to do so. I mean, Tyler Perry is probably the biggest example, building his own entire studio because he couldn't get the funding and the things he needed for his own projects in Hollywood by the majors. So he's like, all right, I'm going to make this money on the side doing stage plays and things like that, getting my scripts that way sold. And then from there, he was able to build his studios in DC and then Atlanta. And I think that that's just really dope. I feel like for any entrepreneur, their biggest goal is to be able to fund themselves, not have to rely on the banks or a big corporation to fund them or back them, so they can do what they want. The freedom is to be able to do what you want. And at the heart, like I said, I'm still a creative at the end of the day. So whether it's my projects, whether I'm overseeing projects for other people, I want those things out there and funded and those stories told. So yeah, for me, it's building a, creative house, kind of like I've started with the House of Aces and expanding it into something that's, a little bit more solid.
No, I love it. And it was kind of a trick question in a way, is sometimes I like to ask myself too, right? If money was not an issue or if money was not an obstacle, how would I pivot my life?
Right.
And so I was telling you off the record, I'm like, I'm a whole new person since I've seen you. So I'm like, oh, look at us. We look good. God is good. But truly, I was talking to my partner as well. I'm now just taking a leap of faith and starting. Like whatever vision I have for my life, whatever I choose to do without the fixation of just money, it's very empowering. And I see you doing that. So the fact that you're already building what you want to do, you're already ahead of the game, right? So this is going to be an interesting question. You're obviously more plugged in than the average person. But where do you see the music entertainment industry moving into? Because, I pray to God that there's enlightenment, there's positivity, and there's more transparency. But in your experience so far, is there any trends or like a vibe we're moving into?
Obviously COVID changed everything. You know what I mean? Like for everybody, but it's specifically the entertainment world. Now everything's moving to streaming so fast. Everything's, the movies industry got hit really bad with that. The music industry, we got hit, but we got hit more so on the touring side. Obviously, we couldn't do live shows and things like that. So Versus and those kinds of experiences came about from that. It's always moving. I think it's a really crucial time in the entertainment industry, as I'm sure you've seen with like SAG going on strike, the writers union going on strike. That affects a lot of people. And in my opinion, I feel like entertainment overall, if we don't start to kind of spread the wealth and opportunity, it's going to crumble at some point because people aren't able to afford to live. And that includes on the music side too. You know, I have artists that we work with that, you know, they're doing Uber and they're doing things like that on the side, trying to make it to studio sessions and that's not really how it was built on. It was built on 360 deals and advances, which aren't great either, but at least they had the funding to be able to focus on their music and stuff all day. So if there's a balance where they're not sold into a contract and sell their life away, but still able to fund their life while they do their art, I hope that that's where it goes. But if not, I mean, I think you're going to see a lot more pushback from the creatives of, I'm not selling my music. I'm going to stay independent, you know, especially now with social media. They almost don't need, in a lot of ways, at least from the marketing side, these big major record labels. So, you know, I think you're going to see a lot of that, you know, people trying to hold on to their rights to their records and sell them if they think it makes sense. So I hope that's where it goes. I hope that the creatives get the money that they deserve for their art and that they spread the wealth.
No, and I'm praying and manifesting that it does move in that direction, because I remember having a moment. I'm like, okay, do I need to get investors or do I need to sell my show as well? And I had a moment with my business partner husband as well. I'm like, but I don't want to lose control or the vision of why I started this. Right? I'm sure if I dressed a little crazier and talk about weird topics,
Clickbait.
I'm sure I could go viral. But I'm like old school. You know, I'm like your auntie grandma that's like, sit down, let's have some tea, or let's just talk about life. And I feel like, back to your point, I've seen it firsthand on YouTube and TikTok is people are getting more real and they're wanting to have more ownership versus pre-COVID. You're absolutely right. It's like, okay, let's just sign the deal, 10 years. We don't even get to touch the money. Do whatever you please. But people are waking up. People are enlightened. So for you, I always try to ask people, you know, what was your life after COVID and the pandemic? I know it's a very sensitive topic because people have lost lives. And, you know, even myself, I lost my mental health. But here I am stronger than ever. But for you personally, you know, aside from business success and all that jazz, how have you been impacted, both good and bad?
Yeah, I mean, no one could prepare for what happened, you know? So I think we all were navigating day by day, hour by hour. And I was too, you know, I was in LA. It was highly expensive. You know, we didn't know where the money was going to come from, you know, all these PPP loans and all this other stuff. It was just a lot of clouded information. No one knew what to do or what was right and wrong. I ended up moving back to Vegas during that time. Because it just became too much. And I got my family out here during that time, which is great. I'm glad they're here now. But yeah, I mean, mental health was obviously number one for everyone. I think there were days where people just were like, I can't be in the house anymore. I can't do this anymore. You know, we're living on top of each other. It was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. But I think the good thing about it is you got to know self more. At least that's my hope for people, is you got to know who you were, good, bad, or indifferent, better. So now coming out of it, I feel like you said, going back to like your purpose, why you're doing what you're doing, what you want to be doing, I think my vision's become more clear because I've had a lot of time to marinate on it. So that was one of the good things that came out of it. I think the other good thing that came out of it was my creativity was sparked again. You know, I had a lot of time, which usually as you know, I'm busy 24/7 on calls and emails and Zooms. So I don't have a lot of time to sit and create and things like that. But when things were kind of at a standstill, I was able to pick up my guitar again and just play or just start writing again. And, you know, tapping back into my creativity, which for me was very therapeutic.
No, I love that. Like, I'm thinking, oh, this is pretty good. I need to listen to your music. I'm like, you know, you got to take some out and let the world see.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you know, even for me, I feel like I'm playing catch up mentally.
Yeah.
I still have some bad days. I still have some heavy days.
Yeah.
And I have days where I feel like I'm on cloud 9, living the best life. And then there's days where I'm literally asking God and the universe, like, what is going on? Why am I here? How did I get here? Whether it's financially or just pivoting, you know, career paths. And last time I saw you, I was in a different place. So, you know, it's always humbling and very inspiring when people are in a better place, because we all have seen and heard people who are definitely not.
Yeah.
So to be able to celebrate the growth and, you know, hitting our purpose, I feel like that's where I'm trying to pull everybody up to right now, you know? So just even you sharing, it's like, thank you for being so real.
Yeah.
Because I found when I was going back into the social scene, it was like 50-50. Some people, they were very real. Like, Jane, I'm not okay. Like, I'm depressed. I'm borderline suicidal. It's like, thank you for sharing. And then there's the people who sugarcoated everything. Like, oh, I'm fine. Whether they're medicated or just going out and partying every day.
Yeah.
So the reality is, obviously, in a safe space, we have to talk about how we really feel.
Yeah.
And what's really going on. Right. So I know you talked about, you have some mentors, you know, a lot of them happen to be male. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How does one find a mentor? Because people listening and watching, they might be thinking like, okay, Dria, I'm successful, but I need mentors. I can't find them. Like, where does one find a mentor and someone that works with them? Because I've ran up to random strangers and I'm like, you are goals. Can you mentor me? And they would just laugh like, Jane, you don't need a mentor. You're pretty awesome. I'm like, I know, but I admire you. I want you to guide me. Yeah. So how do you find your mentors?
I gotta think about how I found my mentors. Well, first of all, I was like, I looked to see who in my career, like in my lane, who was like killing it. And so I kind of took note of that as I was, you know, going out to events in LA or in New York and things and trying to figure out who's who. And then from there, honestly, it just really came down to like organic relationships. For me, you know, when I think of the word mentor, I don't think it needs, a lot of people I think are like, they need to be older than me. They need to be making millions and they need to, I have a prime example is my partner in the show, The Debut Live, like Carl Lamar. He's younger than me, but I look at him as a mentor in the sense of he inspires me. He inspires my creativity. We both lean on each other for mentorship and, you know, guidance and advice. And, you know, that to me is a mentor. Or I have another girl named Candace Candace Newman. She used to be the head of touring at Live Nation, but now she has her own company that handles major tours across the country and internationally. And I look at her and I knew she was in the industry, but to be honest, I didn't lean on her as a mentor because of what she did. But just like you said, going back to a woman in a kind of man's world that just, for lack of a better term, didn't give a shit. She was just like, I'm going to be here and you're going to hear my voice and I'm going to do it and I'm going to kill it. And every time she like did something like that project wise, she would kill it. You would see it everywhere, like whatever the case was. And to me, that was so inspiring that I was like, I got to be around you more. And I think it's just really comes down to the organic side. I created more friendships first, then turned them into mentors later. But if it's just like someone who has to be mentored now, I would say go, you know, look at who's who in your industry. You know, a lot of these people, believe it or not, are more approachable than you think they are. It doesn't seem that way because it's like, oh my God, he's the CEO or she's the CEO of a company. She's never going to hit me back. But a lot of times they do, you know, might take a minute to get on their schedule or a meeting or whatever. But, you know, I think if you have a vision and a goal and you can clearly state that to them and why, you know, you think that they would be a great mentor, a lot of them, I think, would be open to something like that. But going back to what you said, you just got to do. I think a lot of people get in their head and overthink. They're like, oh, what if it doesn't come off right? And what if it, okay. And it might not. And you might fumble a couple times, but eventually you're going to get how to do it. And the more you do, the more, you know, it's going to be better every time. But the more you sit and wait and just do nothing, it's not going to go anywhere. You're going to be stuck in a room, you know? So I tell anyone, whether it's my clients, people I'm mentoring, you know, friends, just do, you know, like just do it. And then, you know, and then adjust from there, you know, what you need to do.
No, and that's really real because I remember when I first met you, I was randomly like, I like your vibe. We're going to sit, we're going to just talk, get to know each other. And I wasn't aware again of your power and all your success, but it was just so cool that we were able to just have a normal bond. Yeah. And then whatever happens after, like, that's another story. So I love that. And I know we were both mentioning Danny Reeves. Shout out to Danny Reeves.
Love her.
Okay, she's amazing. But, you know, the wisdom you're spitting, I'm like, I can actually remember one incident where I did apply that. I remember DMing her one time and I was like, you're beautiful. She probably thought I was kind of silly. And then I had the opportunity to meet her in real life.
Yeah.
And so back to your point, I could have been just awkward and shy, like, okay, I don't know her. She might judge me or she might think I'm weird. I just went to her and I was like, You're beautiful. You may or may not know me. I sent you a DM, but just wanted to let you know I think that you're so classy and so elegant, and you're truly elevating Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just looked at me and she was just so sweet and humble, like yourself.
Yeah.
So now she's definitely more of a friend. She doesn't know she's my mentor. You're my mentor, Danny. And same for you. You know, I don't have to necessarily give you a title or a sticker on your shirt that says I'm Jane Powers' mentor, but I would consider you a mentor, because in my world, a mentor is somebody that I am humbled by, that I am inspired by. Not so much envy or competition, but just like, girl, you're getting it in your lane. You're getting it in your industry. Yeah. And how do I bring that kind of energy to what I'm doing and what I'm building, right? So just picking back off just women empowerment and, you know, encountering women. Luckily, you have like a tomboy, masculine, feminine side like me, so no wonder we get along. But
I'm very sporty.
Maybe even if it was like 1% or even one encounter in your lifetime, have you been in a situation where there was haters, jealousy, or somebody side-eyeing you for no reason? Because I'm tough, or I like to act tough. But my man will tell you, when I'm in a room or something's off, like I just lose it. Like I start crumbling inside. You won't see it, but inside I'm like, okay, I'm either going to have to lay hands and pray for them, ask God and Jesus for strength, or I might punch him in the face because I'm not liking the energy they're giving me. Right. So how do you handle moments, or if you had a moment in your lifetime? Because you're awesome, but someone's going to not like it.
I mean, yes, back in the day, I would say that I handled it very incorrectly and maybe physically. But now, I honestly, I'm at a point where I just don't really give a shit what people think. I really don't care. I'm not for everybody. Everybody is not for me, and I'm okay with that. But the energy thing, that is a little bit harder for me to deal with, because I do sometimes suffer from social anxiety. So if I feel bad energy in a room, and it might not be a specific person, it could just be the energy in general. I do take a step back and kind of like assess what the situation is. But like I told you, I'm like off camera, I pick and choose when I pop out and when I don't. You know, I really have to be motivated to be there. I need to have a purpose and a why, because then when I'm out, it's like I can get through it because I'm driven. Like, I know you might be hating over here, you might be laughing at me over here, but I'm here for a reason. I need to meet so-and-so, I need to get my client here, or whatever the case is. So if I have a purpose going into what I'm doing, then that's, you know, I think that's in like work social settings, that's how I get through it. But definitely there were times on a personal level where I didn't, you know, at first I was like, everyone's my friend and I love everybody and I'm neutral and whatever. But the closer I let certain people in, I started to realize that they were probably my worst haters, but they were masking it under friendship. So now I think more than ever, I'm super, super cautious of who I let into my circle and bring to work events, bring with me around the people I work with, or my family, because I don't trust everybody from a personal level. So I definitely do a lot more vetting in that sense. Because there's definitely haters, and usually they're the people that are supposed to be closest to you or say they're closest to you. So you got to be careful about who you give your energy to. But I think overall, like, fuck them. Like, I just really don't care. Like, I don't care. I know what my purpose is. I know why I'm here and what I'm doing. I know I'm smart. I know I have a purpose in this lane and in this industry. And you can tell me all you want, but that I'm not. But who are you? Like, I don't care. Like, I just don't give a shit. You know? And I think the more you can get on that term and like just be like, I don't care, the easier it is, because it's like anything they could say about me, I would say about myself. Like, the worst thing you could possibly say about me, I'm transparent. I'm gonna let you know about it probably first. So whatever. Like, I really don't care. And not everyone's gonna be your friend, and not everyone's gonna be buddy with you, and that's okay. Like, not everyone's for you, and you're not for everyone. And if that was the case, like, billionaires would have 5 billion friends. They don't. They usually have like 1 or 2, and that's it. You know? So I'm good.
I'm like, you better preach. Took me to church. Okay. I was like, amen. I'm like, I needed to hear that. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Because, man, I'm going to say it again. I am not for everybody.
No.
Get over it.
It's
because
fine.
I used to be so nice, gullible, rainbows and butterflies. Right. Everybody sit next to me. But we as leaders and light workers and a light in this city specifically, we are allowed to choose who we allow in our circle and sitting next to us, because at the end of the day, the people, the energy, the spirits we allow, they will affect us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've all heard that saying as a kid, you know, be the people you're around, it also shows you who you are and where you're going.
Yep.
So I will say humbly, as I level up in my life, I've minimized my association with random people. Of course, there's a lot of people that you might see here and there, but I don't call everyone my friend.
Yeah.
I'm learning the difference between friends and acquaintances respectfully.
Yep.
Or, hey girl, good to see you, versus I'm going to call you when I'm really down, or I'm going to call you when I'm really going through some stuff.
Yeah.
And so piggybacking off what you're sharing, I feel like even trust, I'm one of those people, I don't just give people trust. I watch people now and I observe, and that's something that I had to learn the hard way because therapy has taught me this. I'm all about therapy, like get professional help, because sometimes your friends aren't going to give you the right words and you have to check the source.
Yeah.
Like don't think
and they're
that
biased. I mean, we
means
love
well.
them. We love our friends and family, but they're biased.
Yes.
You know, they're always going to, in some capacity, side with you.
Yes.
And sometimes you need to not be sided with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm just glad that you were expressing just like your rawest self, because I've had a hard time accepting that. And I know people even watching and listening, it's like, okay, I know I'm not for everybody, but why do I people please?
Yeah.
You know, that's a whole nother animal. Have you ever had a moment where you felt like people pleasing and you got to make sure everyone else is comfortable before you?
Yeah, definitely in my career. That's how I started. I had zero boundaries with clients. You can call me 24/7, 7 days a week. I'm going to answer every time. I'm going to be at every carpet with you. I'm going to be everywhere with you. Whatever you need, I'm your servant. No, I'm not your servant. I'm here for a specific job. This is what I'm here to do. You know, yes, there are times where, you know, hours have to go a little bit later or whatever, sure. But like I have office hours. I have boundaries. My phone will be on do not disturb unless it's an emergency. Like, leave me alone. And I wasn't like that at first. I was like, people please everything. And they will walk all over you every single fucking time. They will walk all over you. I don't even know that I fully blame them for doing that, because it's like, if you give somebody the world and they're very self-centered, of course they're going to take it and keep taking it because you have zero boundaries. But I think as soon as you start setting boundaries up front, people respect you, right? They're going to be like, oh, okay, she's about her business. She's not about, you know, just being a yes man or a yes woman. And a lot of times people don't need that either. And I realized a lot of times I was saying yes just to people please when I knew in the back of my mind the answer was no, or we shouldn't be doing this strategy, or we shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z. But I didn't have the courage at the time to say it. And I think that goes back to what you said, even on a personal level. It's about accepting yourself first. Like if you accept yourself and who you are, and like good, bad, and different, flaws and all, I think it's easier to step out into the world and be like, I don't care because I accept me. And if you don't like me, okay, you don't have to like me, but I like me. So it's whatever. But I think if you have, like you said, you haven't done work on yourself, healing, therapy, or really figured out who you are, and it changes all the time. Like who I was at 25 is not who I am today. And so you got to keep doing the work. But I think if you figure out who you are as a person, it becomes a lot easier to set those boundaries personally and professionally.
Man. And, you know, I think one of the hardest things for me is I've spent so much time alone.
Yeah.
And I was such a busy butterfly, like social. But I mean, you remember, I was at parties, whether it was work or fun.
I was like, you made me tired.
Yeah. I'm like, I had a broken foot and all, and I was still at the club. But man, like my younger self looking back, it's like, dang, Jane, what were you trying to prove? Like, what were you trying to show? Like, what were you doing? And I feel like we all get trapped in this disease where you're new to a city, especially Vegas. It's all about like looking good, knowing the right people. And man, I just dove into that and I realized, Jane, if you don't love yourself and you don't know who you are, you will allow your environment, unfortunately, to mold who you become.
Right.
And so the biggest wake up call is when I transitioned into becoming self-employed and building my own vision. And at first, you know, I told you I grew up in the church. So like, I wouldn't say I'm submissive, but just I was raised to respect authority and elders. But as I become more mature in my life, it's like I don't have to agree with everybody, and I don't have to people please and make sure other people are comfortable. And it's okay to be like, hey, sir, ma'am, gentleman, sister, I don't agree.
Yeah.
And in a respectful manner.
Right.
And it's scary. I feel like
it's the delivery.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it scary, is that you're told like, oh, if I disagree, that, like you said, that's being disrespectful. It's not being disrespectful. How you deliver that no is where the disrespectful comes in. So, you know, learning how to speak your mind, like even for me, like in a boardroom, at a record label, wherever, learning how to speak my mind and be like, no, that's not right. And here's why. And delivering it in a way that's, you know, unbiased and professional, then you can stand on it and be like, look, like if you're gonna, like if that makes you irate and you're gonna get mad at me, then you're the one that has the issue, not me. You know, like I know that I'm right and here's why, and I've proven why. But I think a lot of times the delivery is where the disrespect lies. Because if you come at somebody, rah, 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 that ain't right, no, la, 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 you know, of course people aren't going to take that well, and that's going to like explode. But, you know, I don't like the stereotype with the word no or disagreeing with somebody that's bad or that's disrespectful. Like we all have opinions and we all have minds. So I think that whether it's a yes or a no, it gives room for growth. So
my most common phrases I've catch myself saying these days is good for you. You know, I love that.
Yeah.
And we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Right. Or thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Because I completely agree. I feel like communication and the way we approach disagreements.
Yeah.
It also shows who we are as a character.
Yeah.
Right. Like, is this person morally sane? Does this person have emotional intelligence?
Right.
Are they coming after me, or are they just standing on their ground and they're also respectfully understanding where you're coming from?
Yeah.
So, man, as you said, you know, your boardrooms and all that, I'm just imagining myself there because you're a badass. What is that pressure like? Again, I'm just speaking from, you know, third person.
Yeah.
But what is that like? Like going into a room and, you know, big decisions are going to be made. You know, you're in places with big people. Like, what is that like? How do you zen out? Like, do you have like a morning mantra or some self-affirmation when you walk in that room?
Yeah, I mean, in daily life, I have like time where I meditate. Yeah, I try to meditate every morning and do like affirmations every morning. I have a gratitude journal that I write in every morning. So that's how I get myself centered for the day. But I think going in there, and I got to shout out my mama for this, like giving me that independent confidence from a very young age. I wasn't scared of anything. And my mom instilled in me, like, you put your pants on the same way they do. Yes, they are in a different position. They might have more money than us. They might have a lot of other things, but y'all get up and put your pants on the same way every day. So I never felt like I didn't belong there. You know, I never felt, did I have to earn my way from intelligence and knowledge standpoint? Sure, an experience. But once I got to the level where I had all of that, the other part kind of came naturally, because again, I didn't ever feel like I didn't belong there. I knew I was smart. I knew that I had the experience and the knowledge to weigh in on whatever conversation was being had in that room. So, you know, when I walk in, of course I listen and observe first, but then once I have opinions about something, I speak up. And I think more women especially need to do this. I think that we get so trained sometimes to sit and be quiet, sit and look good, sit and be pretty. And there's nothing wrong with that sometimes, but a lot of times they need our opinions, you know, like just as much as we need men's opinions in certain situations. And there's a lot of times where I see in big meetings where you'll have 4 or 5 women in there and they it'll be a 2-hour meeting. They won't say anything. And it's like, I know you know the answers. I know you've been in these rooms. You have creative ideas. Speak on them, even if they're wrong. You know, because most times, I mean, unless it's, you know, the random chauvinist man, most men are going to be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Or like, okay, maybe, no, we can't do that because of this, but whatever. You know, they're receptive, but they're not going to be receptive to people who don't say nothing. So I hope that more women speak up in those meetings.
No, and you're touching a few really deep points, both that can be applied professionally and personally. Mm-hmm. I feel like self-confidence. I mean, thank God for your mama. Same for my crazy mom. God bless her, tiger mom.
Yeah.
But when you, like we as women, when we have such powerful mothers that, you know, gave us that courage to just go out in the world and do it, it is such a gift, because I've noticed not a lot of people had that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I take the simplest abilities or perspectives of life for granted, because here you and I, we're able to do what we do, be what we are, sit in a room and just talk, right? Very openly. But whenever I see women or even girls or younger girls just so unaware of their talents, their gifts, their own self-confidence, it really does just, it does make me teary, because it's like, oh my God, we have this privilege almost and this superpower of being like, we're going to own this stage, we're going to own this conversation, and we're going to speak up. But how many girls don't have that?
Yeah.
And so it's so important for people like us to show up the way we do, because even the women that you speak of in the room, I mean, you're not their therapist, so I don't expect you to know their childhood traumas, but you don't know what they went through that maybe, they're showing up that way. And same for me. It's like, wow, we do take our power for granted sometimes, right? Because you and I both know we'll be the first one to speak up and be like, actually, I do have an opinion. Let me speak about it. But just like it's great to see that we have that. But for the ones that don't, like even people watching right now, like they're probably crying or taking notes right now, like, but Dria, Jane, I don't have that self-confidence, right? Like, I don't have kids either, but if you had a daughter, like, how would you teach them to have self-confidence in this world, especially right now? We're in weird times. What would you teach and preach and show them?
I think it comes, I mean, it definitely comes from home, right? Like, it comes from home base and at a young age. Like, again, my mom instilled in me, whether I wanted to dance or sing or model or whatever, she told me I could. Whether I was talented or not, that didn't matter to her. It was like, okay, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it, and we're going to give it our all. And I love that. But if you're an adult and you're having to kind of start from square one, I think it's the company you keep. It's who's around you. Like, you need to be around people that build you up, that tell you that you're amazing, that tell you, because if you didn't have that growing up, you probably are missing that part of you that's, didn't get built up by your parents. So having a partner, having friends, having, mentors that are like, no, you're great at what you do, and here's why. And kind of, like you said, building up from that standpoint, I think that's one. And then two, like you said, therapy. I mean, we all, I don't want to say suffer from childhood traumas, but we all have things in maybe our childhood and in our past that we haven't healed from, or that we don't know is affecting us now. But then if we really sat back and thought about it or talked about it with a therapist, like, oh, wow, that is why I am the way I am. So I think discovering yourself from that standpoint will obviously help you with your confidence later.
And I'm sure someone heard what you just shared and they're like, ouch, that burned a little bit. Because especially as adults, if we don't make intentional choices to shift and change, then we are allowing our past to take over.
Right.
And, prime example, if you're around toxic positivity, negative, insecure people, you're absolutely right. It's like a disease. It's like a stench.
Yeah, it's like cancer.
It's like an odor. Like eventually it will come off. And I don't know if you've ever been in a position where it's like, I'm captain, save everybody, and I'm captain, let me heal everybody. It's like, I've always had this superpower of connecting with people and loving on people, but there was a harsh reality check for me when one day I realized I was around just, people at a low vibration, or maybe just lack of awareness of who they could become. And I remember someone, close to me was like, Jane, are you attracting those people, or do you almost feel bad for them? Like, what is it? And I'm like, whoa, someone kind of checked me. They're like, well, perhaps maybe you feel better around them. And I was like, we're not having this conversation, okay? But there is this guilt or, darkness in that, is sometimes if we're not aware, we will choose people who are just in a different stage of life to feel better. Right? Whether it's a relationship romantically, we've all had a lover or a boyfriend or a side piece where it's like, hey, this is probably not the godliest, holiest, most positive or in alignment with our manifestation plans. But, it feels good to feel like we can change them. So don't make me feel stupid. I'm sure you've been there too, okay? Have you ever, allowed yourself to be in those relationships and friendships where you're like, this no longer serves me, but I'm in it for now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm the first to say my downfall is my personal relationships with men. That's my like Achilles heel. I have always had very toxic, tragic up and downs when it comes to my relationships with men. And I mean, thankfully, I've done work now on it to where, you know, with therapy and things like that, to where I see those patterns and things. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. There were times where I was with them because I thought that I could save them, that I could put them on, I could take care of them. I felt better about myself being around them. Yeah, but all of it ended up in a downfall. And I mean, in some parts, I'm sure it hurt my career too, you know, like, I mean, maybe not directly, but indirectly, you know, my emotional states were unstable because of it or whatever. So yeah, I absolutely have been there. And also I think you're right. Keeping people around you that are low vibrational or toxic or whatever, it's going to wear off. I mean, it's the old saying, like the company you keep, right? And it reflects who you are at some point. So yeah, if you don't keep those people away and keep people around you that are highly motivating, I think the biggest one that people have a hard time with is people that challenge you. Like a lot of people are scared of that because they're like, I don't want to be challenged. I'm fine the way I am. I don't want to do that. And it's like, no, I want, whether it's a friend or a husband or a boyfriend or whatever, I want someone that's going to challenge me every day, because there are days where I feel lazy and I don't want to do shit. And I need someone that's like, no, get up. You got stuff to do. Like, let's go. Or just lead by example. They're doing something that I'm like, wow, like I see them doing that every day. And like, that's so inspiring. I want to be like that. So I think keeping people like that around you will definitely help. But if you keep the other stuff around you, the toxic stuff, yeah, that's eventually going to seep into everything you do. So yeah, it's hard.
It's like the moment you think you know life, it's like we don't know anything. No, you don't
right?
know anything. Like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know anything.
No, whether God telling you don't know it, whether your mom, whether your boss, like you don't know anything. It changes every 5 minutes. And I mean, I guess that's the beauty of life, but also the like keeps you on your toes part of life.
And one thing too that I've kind of recognized in my patterns is like just sitting next to you right now, right? Like I'm in awe because I've caught myself again drooling over people, and I promised myself, Jane, don't be a fangirl on your podcast. It's kind of embarrassing, but really I want to have people on the podcast where I do admire and I can openly say like, Dria, you're amazing. I would cuss a little bit more, but I try not to. Okay. But I'm working on that. No, it's okay. I'm working on that. God is cleansing me. Okay. I had a little bit of hood side back in the day, but it's all good. Nobody needs to know that. But when I sit here with you, and I shared this off the record, not, oh, look at me, but I feel empowered and inspired that I'm able to have the opportunity and the privilege to interview such powerful women.
Yeah.
And so if I didn't tell you enough, like I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I feel honored to know you. And, you know, I texted you this, like, just thank you for creating space. You know, we all got things going on. We all lose jobs, gain jobs. You know, we're in the mix, and sometimes we purposely need a break from the mix.
Right.
And so I try to tell people, I'm not ghosting you, but I need time to just process life.
Yeah.
I need time to know me more so I know who I need to be around. And so I find it such a beautiful blessing that we're able to share space right now. Is, you know, I don't know all the darkest things you went through or even the brightest moments of life, but here we are having a moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like that says a lot about who we are. And my mom used to always give me some wisdom, you know, when you look at like people you bond with or people that you're magnetically drawn to or your childlike self feels safe, that is a mirror and a reflection of you. Mm-hmm. So when you mentioned social anxiety earlier, I was like, don't tell anyone. I'm actually very awkward too. And I do have social anxiety. Yeah. But when I'm in the right room with the right people, it's like, oh, I can breathe. Like I can slouch a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't need to like show off all the time. Right. Yeah. And so you are truly like such a breath of fresh air, like in my life. And this is just the beginning, you know, now that I'm in a healthier place too, like I want to be healthier for you.
Yeah.
Because when we're toxic, we don't realize we're in our own toxicity. But once we start shifting and healing, it's like, oh, wow. there is light.
Yeah.
Like there was darkness, but there is light, and I want to walk into that area, and I want to bring the right energy, the right spirits with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you said, Jane, I'm very mindful of who I'm around. I'm very mindful of who is in the house. I mean, this is our studio in our house for now. But you know, for me to feel safe to invite you into my literal home in studio, like I hope that you just see like my love and support for you as well.
No, and I love that about you. It's one of my favorite things about you.
Yeah.
And I think too, like it goes with saying that if you keep positive things around you, you're going to attract more positive things around you. And I'm all for that. And again, you know, there's going to be bad things out in the world. There's going to be haters. There's going to be all those toxic things. And sometimes, like you said, you might need to recharge. But I feel like your day ones, the people that really care and support you, whether you go away for a year, you go away for a day, whatever time you need, the people that love and care about you are going to understand. And that's how I've always operated. If I lose people because I need to go away for a couple weeks to recharge and not talk to anybody, and that's the basis of you leaving our friendship or relationship, then you were not for me, and you're not for this next chapter in my life either. So
no, amen to that. So, you know, I'm going to just be very transparent and direct with you. I need you in my life because one thing I've learned this past year is it's okay to shed layers. It's okay to outgrow people.
Yep.
I had a moment of feeling really guilty, but one of my greatest therapist mentors in Seattle, Renee, she's amazing. She was like, Jane, it's okay to like outgrow people. It's okay that the places and the people you used to engage with no longer match like where you're going, and that's okay. And I'm like, whoa, all right, reality check. So let me know how I can support you. You know, I feel so honored and privileged to have you on. What I always like to say at the end of every episode is, man, you gave a lot of gems today, but what would be your 3 biggest life lessons up to date?
Oh gosh, that's hard. 3 life lessons. Own who you are. Don't let anyone dim your light. You know, everyone has a light in them that's amazing. Don't let anyone dim that. And for any reason, love, money, you know, career, don't let anyone dim your light, because that's what's going to, you know, attract the other things and the good things about you. And be fearless. Be fearless in any situation. You know, if you, like I said, going back to, if you don't just do and you don't just, you know, just go, it's never going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. So no matter what you're feeling on the inside, and believe me, I've been there, where it's just like, just all these knots and I don't want to do it, but I do it. I always feel 10 times better after, because it could be, I could fail and fall on my face, but at least I learned, or it's successful and I'm glad I did it, because I would have never taken the chance otherwise. So yeah, be fearless.
Well, I'm going to make sure I write that in my journal. But thank you so much for just your love and light and just being present with me. I feel like just our time, it's one of the most valuable gifts we can share.
Yes.
And make sure you think about topics you want to talk about next time, because I know people listening and watching, they really enjoyed just your realness and your soul. And everyone tuning in, thank you so much for taking this time. I told you guys, she's truly a divine disruptor, killing it in the game. I mean, we need to see more women in male-dominated industries. Again, shout out to all the males who are killing it. I'm not saying anything bad about that, but amazing. Again,
we need them to.
It's all about love and community and collaborating. So please continue to shine your light, protect your peace, and we'll catch you in the next episode.